What's the word, Harrisburg? My name is Matt Maisel, and joining us right now is the Executive Director of the Dauphin County Court-Appointed Special Advocate Program, Will Foster. Will, thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me.
So, Court-Appointed Special Advocate, CASA. We've heard CASA. If anyone is from the area, you know CASA could be one of three things. It's this. It could be soccer related. It could be the Capital Area School for the Arts. But this is the Court-Appointed Special Advocate. What is CASA?
Great. Actually, there's four, by the way.
Oh, there's one I'm missing?
There's a fourth one.
What? Just so we're getting it out into the ether, what is it?
It's CASA, and they help. I believe they help immigrants.
Yes, you're right. You're 100% right. I'm sorry for forgetting that.
That's okay. I'm not shouting them out, but
yes.
What we are. We are not any of those things. We're very unique in our approach.
We are talking about the Dauphin County Court-Appointed Special Advocate, and you are the man in charge. How would you describe to someone who just got dropped on planet Earth? How would you describe what a court-appointed special advocate is?
So our program recruits, trains, and educates community volunteers to go into the court system and advocate for children in the foster care system. It's we're getting volunteers from all walks of Dauphin County, and some maybe just on the outskirts, and we're getting professionals, we're getting retirees. I have a PhD med student right now I don't know how he's doing it, but he's doing it and crushing it.
What is he? Okay, so let's go into what he specifically is doing, and that will kind of help give an example of what CASA does.
Yeah, absolutely. So our volunteers, when they come into us, they go through a 30-plus hour pre-service training. This covers all sorts of topics between trauma, poverty, LGBTQIA+. We do substance use. We hit the gambit. Because pretty much all of our kiddos are going to be affected in some way, shape, or form by all of these subjects, because we're dealing with kids in abuse and neglect situations. So they go through the training. At the end of the training, we get sworn in by currently Judge Cherry or Judge McNally, and they become official appointees of the court. And what that gives them the power to do is we'll assign them a case or a child in the system, and they'll follow this child for the rest of their case, which could be many years, and advocating for them throughout the length of that.
Okay, so say we're talking about a case in which, forgive me for a second.
That's okay. It's a complicated
does the case have to involve the child being abused, or could it involve the parent of the child? And the child has nothing necessarily to do with the case itself, but they are directly impacted because their parent is the one that's being charged for something.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what it comes down to is if there's an open case with children and youth services, if there's an open case and they're being removed from home, sometimes, very rarely are they still with the parents in the home, but we have been assigned to cases with like court-ordered protective supervision that we've been able to help out with. But yeah, typically our children are being removed from home.
Okay, so someone is removed from the home, and where are the children with during this time? Could they be with is it a grandparent? Is it another parent? I mean, how does that work out if once you're involved with Dauphin County CYS, how then does the special advocate kind of get involved?
Well, that's a great question. So once they're removed from home, we typically get a referral. We'll assign a volunteer to it. And the advocate's job is to advocate for the best interest of the child. And oftentimes that best interest isn't really known, or the opinion of the child isn't typically well known. So we get like children and youth, the other lawyers, the court has objectives for the family. The ultimate goal is always to try to reunify the child with the parents. But that's not always the best interest. Sometimes the parents' rights get terminated.
And if in some cases the parents are being charged with abuse and things like that, and therefore, absolutely not. You can't go back to that parental system.
Yeah, so it's a loaded question because kids, when they're removed from home, there are a lot of options, but not a lot of options. So they can go with family members if family members are willing to take them. They'll go into group homes, depending on the situation. They'll go into treatment facilities. And sometimes they just get stuck wherever there's an open bed. And that isn't a good situation either.
Like foster care?
Well, not quite foster care. So that is another option. You know, they can be put into a foster home and, you know, hopefully that works out well for them. But sometimes we're talking about just like a secure facility run either by the state or privately. And, you know, they don't have a choice because there's nowhere else for this child to go.
You were telling me beforehand that you're a dad of 3 young kids. I myself, my 2 kids are similar in age to yours. Mine are 6 and 3. The thing that I find hardest, when I was a reporter in my previous line of work, there was one story which, and I don't know if you remember it, because I don't know if you were working with CASA at the time, but we're kind of going off the rails here. This was a Dauphin County Halifax case.
Okay.
Back in December of 2016. And my wife was pregnant with our first at the time. And my whole view on life in general was just changing. And that case hit me hard in a way because of the stories involving the child abuse and neglect that were involved. And thankfully, the 3 kids who were involved in that case today are all thriving in a different home, which is those are the good stories.
That's a good
those
story.
are the success stories.
Yep.
But the whole thing of cases involving children are just so difficult for me. You are right there on the front lines dealing with this on a daily basis. How emotionally do you get through that when you are a father yourself and you're dealing with small kids like that and going through the worst possible imaginable times?
Boundaries are a big help, and that's something that we preach to our volunteers. You have to be able to find an appropriate boundary for you to care, but also not let it drag you down. And support. You know, I just termed the coin yesterday CASA-hood, you know, like a brotherhood of CASA, our network. But really just support from each other. My volunteers are the ones that are really on the front lines. I'm just the one that is their support and, you know, hearing what we have to hear. And at the end of the day, it's how the impact that we're making, being able to help those children in those situations is really like you focus on the good. You really do.
What was it? Do you remember what it was that got you into? Because you weren't always this. You weren't always kind of on this path that we could get into later, but you're a former City of Harrisburg employee. You worked in Parks and Recreation, you know, back, I think you said 2014 or so. What was it that got you into or drew you to this field of being a special advocate? Because very rarely that's something that you kind of plan for. A lot of times when people talk about this, it's like, oh, there was a calling. What was it for you that drew you to this profession?
Honestly, I've always worked with children at risk, with kids from all different backgrounds. I'm originally from the Poconos, so I worked at a Y camp that I saw a couple hundred students every couple of days, and from all different parts of the Northeast, DC, New Jersey, New York. And I just found that they all brought a really cool story to the table, right? So I promised myself a long time ago, one of my personal goals is going to be to make a positive impact on as many people as I can. So fast forward quite a few years, every job I've taken has been to make where I am better. So
Kid focused,
community focused.
Okay.
You know, as I've gotten further into my professional career, community is really important because, you know, for kids to thrive, we have to have a thriving community. for community to thrive, we have to have people supporting that community, right? So that's kind of where so fast forward anyway,
Yeah.
even further, I found myself having my third child, and I was looking for a better job to sustain, and I came across the job description for a program supervisor, and I'm like, wow, I could do all of this. So I hopped in with both feet, and I fought for it. I got it, and then a few months later, here I am as the executive director. Because quite frankly, this is such an important program for a lot of our kids. I can't even begin to tell you the impact that my volunteers are having. We have one kid who has recently aged out, but when he was assigned the volunteer was the only level of support he had in his life, only positive adult he really had, and she hopped in, gave him purpose, validated him, and within a 3-month period, that kid was going to school every day. He had goals. He wanted to get his license. He wanted to, go into the military.
Wow.
She didn't really do much more for him other than give him a positive outlet and support. And 3 months after that, he's the one initiating conversations about, I want to be able to do this. How can I do that? And it's just amazing to see the growth in that short time frame.
What's the age range of the kids that your office works with?
So to be in children and youth, you can be anywhere from 0 to 21.
Okay.
A lot of kids will have the option, when you turn 18, you can sign yourself out of care, but
Sure.
some will opt in to stay till 21 or till things feel right for them to go.
Is there how many children are you working with currently, approximately?
So we have 15 active volunteers. We're working with about 20 youth right now.
So it's almost a 1-to-1 ratio.
Yeah, and that's another big strength that we bring. One, we're not paid, so our volunteers are there because they want to be there. They're committed, where a lot of other players around that child's life are there because they're paid, and they'll revolve. So we're a constant. The other big part of our volunteers is the fact that they come from all different backgrounds. That, like I said, different perspectives brings a lot of clarity for some people.
Do you try to match people up with similar backgrounds, or is the diversity kind of a helping matter? Is there a preference when you kind of match volunteers up with children?
Yeah, so we do try to take volunteer preference in really it's personality, but I'd be neglectful to say that being that we're in Harrisburg, Dauphin County area, we're super diverse.
Yeah.
I mean, our volunteer base is phenomenal, but we could use some more diversity.
Got it.
Yeah, I mean, we have a lot of kids from all different backgrounds. We have them from northern Dauphin area. We have them from right in the city and everywhere in between. But the thing that they have in common is there's not much of them in common, right? So we definitely need more volunteers. One, because there's 300 plus cases of opening with CYS that we could have advocates helping, right?
Oh, wow.
There's over 300 kids in care, but we have 15 active volunteers right now. So that's we're impacting 20 of those 300 right now.
So what's happening to the other 280?
They are surviving the best they can in the system that is doing the best that it can. Yeah.
That's hard to hear.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, everyone's strained. I mean, it's post-COVID world. Everyone's struggling to find their place, their niche. Everyone's understaffed.
I'm not asking you to speak for Dauphin County CYS because I know
Sure.
that's not your job. But what I do know is that Dauphin County CYS in the last 10 years has had an interesting, to say the least, past.
Yeah.
They've gone through some struggles, some troubles. They've been criticized a lot. How would you describe working with Dauphin County CYS in 2023?
Look, they are doing the best that they can, and the people that I work with genuinely care about what happens. They just have a lot on their plate, right? And that's kind of where we can kind of help come in and take a little bit off their plate, give them some updates, because they're doing what they need to do, and they're doing the best that they can for these children. But you know, who doesn't appreciate a little help here and there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So they're doing a great job. I
Um,
can't say much bad about them right now.
are the children that you and your office are advocating for, are they mostly super young? Are they older, high school age? Is it a kind of a wide range sort of deal?
We have a pretty wide range. I have a couple that are, or a few that are under 10. I've got a bunch that are in their later teen years now. So we do have the gambit.
And how long are you working with them for? I know they can be there until 21, but how long do you typically work with a child, a youth?
Right now, we seem to be closing cases in an average of 2.5 years, which is not a great thing, but also 2.5 years compared to, I mean, upwards of 10 plus. I mean, some of these kids come in pretty young, and then for whatever reason may not get where they need to be for many, many years.
So basically, the way it works on a timeline, if I'm understanding this correctly, parent gets arrested for one reason or another, and because of that, the child is therefore involved with CYS. And that's when you step in. And throughout the whole court process, the preliminary hearings, the pretrial motions, waiting for jury selection if it gets to that point, going through a trial, that is when CASA is involved.
So honestly, that happens way less than you would think it would. A lot of our parents aren't necessarily catching criminal charges. Sometimes they just need a little bit of extra support to make
Oh, okay.
their home safe.
Got it.
Or they're just unable to take care of their children, and this is just kind of where they end up. So they're not necessarily getting in trouble, but they are at risk of losing their rights to their child, which no one wants to see happen.
Okay. Got it. Okay. I understand. So it's not necessarily criminal activity that gets you involved, but if there is a court-related matter where they could be losing custody because of
They could have
they're overwhelmed or
overwhelmed, unstable housing. There could be some drug allegations happening. I mean, there's a lot of different reasons for a child to come into care, but I do know CYS does a really good job of trying to filter out just providing support before they take them out of the system.
So, I mean, I guess the ideal sort of situation is parents clearly need an extra set of hands.
Yeah.
And CASA comes in, Dauphin County CASA comes in and is able to provide that extra set of hands, which then gives the parents buys them a little bit of time to kind of get their life in order, and then reinserting the child back into the daily lives of the parents once the court determines that their lives are in order.
Yeah, I mean, in layman's terms, that's essentially what happens. I mean, the goal is ultimately reunification in every case. That doesn't happen in every case. Sometimes the parents, for whatever reason, just either can't get it together, or they voluntarily waive their rights because they know it's better for their child to go elsewhere. But realistically, we're not buying anyone time. We're just here to speak for the child, right? And sometimes speaking for the child is helping the parents with whatever, connecting the parents with resources. But really, children and youth do a lot of the nitty gritty. We're just here. Our 4 primary roles are information gathering, facilitating that information, monitoring the goals that are being set forth in court, and then advocating every step of the way.
Got it.
Yeah.
What would you say is the most rewarding and valuable part of what you do?
Oh gosh, any small victory is a big victory, right? Anytime a child is making a good decision on their own, or they found a voice, a reason, or a way to speak up for themselves, or if something finally works out for one of these children, they finally get a home that loves them and wants to adopt them, or they get reunified. These are all things that help keep us all going.
Is adoption what you see more often than not? Do you keep track of, what the end result is and kind of how you go about that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have an official tally sheet. Yes, one reunification.
Sure.
Yeah, but I mean, it seems to be a fairly even split where kids end up back with their parents, or they go into what they call subsidized permanent legal custodianship. So it's kind of like a foster home, but it's more permanent. Or they get adopted. I mean, those are the three biggest things that happen.
You mentioned the little victories, and how every little victory is a big victory, so to speak. I would imagine that just doing this whenever it's almost cliche to say whenever you see the smile on the kid's face, because the one thing that we both know as parents is that kids are resilient beyond our wildest knowledge as adults. They understand more than we give them credit for. Mm-hmm. They feel more than we understand. They know more than we think that they know.
Yep.
And when you are, and that is as young as 2, 3. My son is 6, and I mean he does things every day that make me go, wait, how do you understand that? And when a child smiles, and you're dealing with children that the smiles are fewer and further between, I would imagine.
Yeah, and a lot of the big victory is when, we have a child who's got a really tough story, and they don't trust people very much because they've been constantly getting failed, and then you, as a volunteer, can go in there and get them to start believing in things again. That is why a lot of us do what we do.
And that is a perfect place, I think, to wrap up. Will Foster, Dauphin County Court-appointed Special Advocate, Executive Director, thank you so much for sharing this insight and your thoughts on what is truly valuable and important work here in the Harrisburg area.
Thanks. Do you mind if I just make a quick plug?
Absolutely.
Great. So there's a couple of things that you can do to get involved with CASA. We're always looking for volunteers. So you can check us out at www.dauphincountycasa.org. Find out how you can help. You can support by donation, become a volunteer. We have special events that we're doing. I have one planned for the fall. It'll be a cocktail hour highlighting the stories and successes that we're going through. So you find all that. You can buy tickets for that on our website as well. So feel free to give us a call. Our phone number is 717-888-9973. We are located on Langleystown Road. So please, we need all walks of life to support and help these kids out.
And that's Dauphin County CASA.org.
Correct.
Thank you so much, Will. That's The Word Harrisburg. We'll catch you the next time here on WHBG Channel 20. Take care.